Here's my nemesis. This piece right here was cut off all jagged. There might be so much debris thrown over them. They could have found themselves under, 10 feet of earth and debris.
If there's nuclear fallout, radiation out there, yeah, they'll be dead. Door works flawlessly.
Yeah, those hinges always impressed me that they're just smooth as could be. And then we're exiting the facility when the door suddenly closed.
This is during construction.
Yes, the door had fallen and completely crushed. It's really a horrific injury.
Incredibly horrific.
Yeah.
This is the Titan intercontinental ballistic missile. Its mission, deliver a payload to a designated spot on the Earth's surface some 5,500 nautical miles away. Its warhead could level an entire city. The lethal giant is boosted on its way by raw power.
Hi, my name is Pete. We're down in the underground facility here. I was caretaker of this facility back in the late 90s into the early 2000s. We're having a look around to see how it looks today.
We've been busy in here.
There have been ballistics testing by military contractors.
Whatever they were shooting at that was fairly nasty. There used to be some very dodgy plywood in here. Yeah, you're incredibly lucky that they didn't tear out your mezzanine. Is there a label on the back of this? Stromberg Carlson. So this was comm system equipment here. These things were designed to close if they lost power. And they would close in a fraction of a second and made a tremendous noise. Looks like you still got some water coming in from the discharge? Or is this coming up through the floor?
We're using the water from the antenna silo
Okay.
to pressure wash all this.
I see. Oh, this is left over from that.
This is completely bone dry.
Okay.
So we're using the water from the antenna silo to pressure wash. And this is just basically, this is just drying up right now.
Okay. 'Cause what I
So
was-
there is no residue runoff.
I thought perhaps it was coming in through this pipe up here. This was the discharge to the waste clarifier.
Pretty clean, isn't it? The antenna silo.
Yeah.
The personnel tunnel. So that was connected to this.
Yeah, I'm sorry, that was your sewage system. Yeah. This went to those stabilization pumps.
So explain this, okay, so they're running sewer into or out of, this is a discharge?
Yeah, this is a discharge right to the lagoons.
The ponds.
Well, the stabilization ponds.
Right.
Yeah.
So that pipe, I imagine I'm just running into here, right?
Yeah, it ran right along these little brackets right here, then underneath the floor in the main tunnel. It got to the end, and
Yeah.
ran underneath. Then hooked up with all the other sewage lines from the control center.
And those ponds originally were about what, to the back of silo 3, launch area number 3, was it?
Say again?
The ponds,
Oh,
the lagoons. Do you know where they were located, or were
they
they
were where the Quonset was, more or less.
where the Quonset is right now?
Yeah,
Okay.
yeah.
And here was on the drawings, the original piping was there.
This was all cable
These
trays.
3 racks, yep,
There were cable trays.
yep, all the way down.
Yeah, because there was all the radio in town here for the antennas, of course. Notice how there's 3 of them, one for each launcher.
Yep. And these racks actually extend all the way to the other facility with the other 10 buildings are too. It runs all the way down.
Yeah, it went all into the upper level of the control dome.
And the paint in here is really held quite well.
Yep.
Of course, lead-based paint is real good at that. That's the one virtue it has, it's so robust. Yeah, right there. There's my nemesis. See that pipe right there?
Which one? Have you bumped your head there?
This sumbitch, yeah. This used to be up about another
Yep,
foot
it's
or
dropped.
so.
Yep, it's dropped a bit.
And then I bumped into either that spot or there was, nope, this piece right here was cut off all jagged. I distinctly recall there's a nice jagged end. So there's your some discharge there.
There's a discharge there.
Yep, see where the water's coming in?
Yeah.
And then there's your vent.
That's the vent. So if you
Yep, that goes into that surface structure we looked at earlier.
there's another blast lock there too.
Yeah.
Actually, the blast valve just here. So what were the sensors? This is a question I want to ask. So what were the sensors back in the day? So for example, okay, you have your blast lock and you have your blast valve. Okay, so what was the sensor they used before to communicate to the blast valve? Just in the event there was any atmospheric disturbances outside, for example. Like, how did it know when? Was it run on a pressure system, for example?
Yeah, they would have a blast detector somewhere on the surface.
Okay.
And it would detect a drastic change in pressure.
Based on PSI and on pressure.
Yeah.
And then now we'll then communicate by the wires, and our blast lock will then just like you don't want your fingers anywhere closer.
Oh no.
And that was like a split millisecond.
Absolutely,
right? And
a
that was
lethal
shut.
kind of thing. Yeah.
But here's the thing: if there was a nuclear strike, okay, and you have a disturbance in the atmosphere, what have you, too, and those blast locks are all in a closed position, there is no more air coming into the facility.
But it's momentary.
Okay,
They only stay shut for a little while.
Okay, but here's the thing. Okay, so it stays closed for how long? A minute?
I think it was probably just long enough. I think they slammed shut, and I don't know if they were arrested in their...
But the point is, if there was radiation, the fallout, then
You're asking a very fundamental question that I...
Do you understand the question of you? Because now you've got a fallout of you. Okay, so it's shut, the first atmospheric pressure disturbance, and then it opens again. And you've got the fallout, you've got the nuclear fallout, radiation,
Yep.
and then you've got the missiles inside the facility. And I don't think that would have been a very, very advanced air filtration against chemical, biological, nuclear, for example.
There isn't one.
So how would they have survived? I mean, they would have had gas masks, or they would have put on their hazmat suits. But apart from that, what other redundancy did they have in order to survive a post-apocalyptic circumstance?
Well, apart from some little chemical, biological, radiological masks that they probably had available for personal protection. That was it.
But that's
There was no filtration.
Maybe 2-3 weeks supply of the cartridges and the canisters. But apart from that, I mean...
Yeah. These launch crews, once the missiles were gone, were superfluous. They had done, that was their mission.
That was the task.
I'm not aware of...
It seemed like the bureaucracy at the time was only really concerned so long as they could discharge their weapons and the missiles, and they could deploy their missiles.
Yeah.
As to the status and the safety of the missileers, I think it really did.
I don't think that they didn't care, but...
Well, I don't believe there was a priority at that particular point, so long as those missiles were deployed and are pointing to their intended targets.
Yeah, as long as they could send them off to their designated ground zeros.
Okay, so what? Okay, so in the event, hypothetically, in the event they deployed the 3 missiles, what was the game plan? Was there a procedural manual? Once the missiles are deployed, the blast valves are reopened. Where would they go? Would they cordon off a particular area, for example, utilizing all the blast locks and all the blast doors? What was the
I think
the
they
game
would
plan?
do what they could to contain contaminated air, to maintain areas as clean as possible. They would probably stay in the control center.
Yep.
Barring anything that you had to physically go to another part to deal with, and you would probably shelter there. Now, their mission might not necessarily end because they had launched their missiles because of the handover procedures that were possible. If this site had launched its missiles and was all done, they may have been able to, if radio communications weren't disabled, talk to any of the other 5 sites in the area.
Utilizing the VHF antennas in the antenna silos, not these.
Or underground cable.
Yeah.
There may have also been
And
underground.
the UHF was the redundancy to the VHF.
I believe so.
Okay.
And it was all different systems. Well, and it all depends on what's going on, atmospheric conditions outside. Maybe the wind blows it the other way. Maybe they, how close of a hit it was.
Whether it was an airburst or ground burst missile.
You got to consider if it happened close by, there
Yeah.
might be so much debris thrown over the entire base. They might have been unable to open the entry portal doors or the missile silo doors to get out of the escape hatch. They could have found themselves under 10 feet of earth and debris when they emerged.
I've seen some antenna silos where the entire catwalk has been removed.
Yeah.
But I love the springs here. I mean, that's what I love with the preservation of this place.
Yeah, it's really nice that this one has not been so severely scrapped out.
Yeah.
That was one of the things that I've had so many people talk to me, about these, and whether they were serious or not, asking about which site. If you're going to buy a site, well, which one? And I said, well, there's a lot of different particulars that would inform that choice. How flooded is it? How many people have been in and out since it was left open?
But Pete, if you know something about this particular complex, there's no graffiti.
Yeah, that's right.
That's how you know. I mean, there's been hardly any trespassing in this particular complex. There's no graffiti. Nothing's been compromised. I mean, the scrappers have had their way in the 60s and the 70s in the second tranche of contractors. Then, obviously, the military contractors were using it as a ballistics testing ground. Then the NTSB were using the above ground surface. But apart from that, this place is it's immaculate.
Yeah.
Considering.
Yeah, it really is. And that right there, you're mentioning the graffiti, that's your first barometer about the condition of the site. Because if it's been left open for people to just stroll in and out at will, then I guarantee you're going to get all the stuff that comes with that.
It becomes a biological cesspool at that particular point. But I love the springs all intact.
Yeah.
And that catwalk is still viable. I mean,
There's only a little bit of stuff that looks like it's been removed here.
I did say on a previous recording that the positioning of this, I mean, the antenna silos. So how deep was the elevator?
Well,
I mean, there's about 30 feet.
So I imagine it accessed.
That's about 30 feet down there.
Yeah.
So all up, the antenna silo was about 75 feet in height.
Yeah, you're probably a little, this looks shallower than the entry portal.
Okay, we've got about 35 feet below. So we've got about 35 feet of water down there. So there was an elevator.
Yep. In fact, you see this spot right here is where it used to reside.
Okay.
This is where your rails and the elevator and everything else. In fact,
Okay.
if I'm not mistaken.
So that gives us a total of 6 elevators now. The 3 in the equipment buildings, the access portal, and 1 in each antenna silo. So there would be 6 elevators in total. Outside of the cribs and the missile tubes.
Yeah, that's
Okay.
correct.
So 6 elevators.
So yeah, then you had access to the maintenance area down below.
I suspected it was an
Well,
elevator, but I couldn't find any confirmation of it.
No, this is the plan.
Yeah.
Actually, it's an ethylene glycol system that they use to heat the doors because they didn't want snow and ice to accumulate on them and they didn't want them to freeze shut. So they actually warmed the doors by circulating ethylene glycol through there.
And you know what? There's another ethylene glycol tank in the launcher air intake building.
Yeah. And if you look up there on the piping, you see it says EGS up there for ethylene glycol system.
Okay, so that's what EGS is.
Or well, it may say EGS for supply and EGR for return, but I can't tell from here. I think it's supply and return. So yeah. Same with the missile silo doors. You'll see the same kind of
Ethylene
building.
glycol was that primarily used in areas where it was colder areas?
Yeah, they wanted something that had a very low freezing point, so it
Yeah.
wasn't going because there's copper tubes
Yeah, yeah,
sticking
yeah.
back and forth inside the doors.
Correct.
Yeah.
Interesting. But I love that the catwalk is still intact.
Yes.
I've seen some of the Vandenberg ones where it's all been scrapped. But there was also one in the
worse,
Vandenberg
ripped
one.
out. It's
Yeah.
like ripped
There
out
is
by a
one
crane.
particular one where the antenna, the radar system is still intact.
Vandenberg.
That's Vandenberg. Yeah, I've seen some of the early pictures.
I have some beautiful photos I got from Fred Epler.
Yes, so Vandenberg was the actual testing facility for all of the Titan missiles. So any testing, launching, deployment of missiles was all done at Vandenberg Air Force Base, and that was in California.
Yeah, there's a very long segment of extension ladder somewhere in the facility, or at least there used to be.
Yeah, I think, are you talking about the one in Silo A?
It could be.
Lieutenant A? It's one over here. Once again, too, there's your elevator.
Not as much water in here. About 3-4 feet lower, maybe.
After we're done with the power dome, we're going to start scrapping in here. Obviously, I'm going to maintain the catwalk, the springs, but all the central structure's going to go.
Yeah, I've got some really nice TOs with just all kinds of illustrated parts, breakdowns, showing the radome.
Right, yeah. There's the radome over here. There it is.
No, the actual antenna that used to sit.
Okay, that one there, right.
That piece is a piece of calibration equipment.
Yeah, it's great. There's also one in the Silo A too.
Yeah, you'll notice
They're
one of those little horns is missing off of it.
Okay.
It's in my personal collection at this point. It went with me. I wanted to take the whole damn thing, but I was up there and I was like, I have no idea how much that weighs. I didn't have it lashed in place, so you're lucky I didn't make off with the whole damn thing.
Door works flawlessly.
Yeah, those hinges always impressed me that they're just smooth as could be.
Magnificent.
I think all the ones in the blast locks are just as nice.
Yep. Yeah, there's an impressive room, the antenna silos.
Yeah, and this whole area, as you can see here from the slots on the floor and this wiring harness right here, this used to be lined on both sides with logic racks, radio gear,
Yep.
both sides.
So you explained there was one particular Titan in particular where the door, the silo door, 125 or 130 ton door, slammed and flattened 3 workers during the construction period. Exactly what did happen and how was it documented well?
Well, there were conflicting reports. The amount of information given out by the Air Force at the time was probably somewhat limited, and they didn't understand the cause of the problem at the time. But it was understood that men were exiting the facility when the door suddenly closed.
This is during construction.
Yes. These were tradesmen, again, electricians, pipe fitters, probably people from Lockheed Martin as well, anybody else involved in the launcher area activities. And the door had fallen and trapped 3 men underneath it, obviously fatally.
I doubt they were trapped. They were dead at that particular point.
Trapped is not completely crushed. It's really a horrific injury.
Incredibly horrific.
Yeah. So it took them several days to even access the bodies. They had to cut parts of the door away, and the last victim, for whatever reason, probably furthest back, was there for 3 days before they were able to recover it.
And the others, basically, they jumped into the safety net.
Yeah, some men were able to flee and get away from it completely. Some had to jump into the silo to land in the safety net where they received minor injuries, fortunately, as opposed to the unfortunate folks who were stuck underneath the door.
And where was that safety net? Like, how deep was it? About 40 feet?
It was probably somewhere around the personnel entry level, which is about 50 feet below the surface.
That's at least 55 feet, yeah.
Yeah. So quite a fall, but a lot better than 150 to the very bottom. So, yeah, I talked to one of the survivors, the man's son, the last body removed, and I knew him.
So his father was a guy who died.
Yes.
And you spoke to the son.
I spoke to him. I met him in 2016 when I was out here. And
Met the son.
yes.
And did the military disclose as to how the father died? Or did they just basically was it just a workplace accident?
My understanding is initially there wasn't much information given. It was a hydraulic failure or a valve failure, but they didn't elaborate as to how it happened.
I'm sure the military back then kept it, workplace accident, very obscure.
Yeah. And then, of course, decades and decades later, with a lot of difficulty, he was able to extract from them a less redacted accident report. But he was never able to get the complete report. There was always large blocked out
Yeah.
segments.
There'll always be some redaction.
Along with the accident photos, which, as you can imagine, they would be hesitant to release. I don't even think they exist anymore. He did get a photo of the door. It didn't show anything graphic, but it said at the bottom, training purposes only, destroy after use.
Wow.
So I believe that the report itself and any of those accident photos are probably long gone.
That is a fascinating story.
Yeah.